Okay, guys, not a lot has changed in terms of what we're trying to get accomplished in terms of where we're at. Obviously, this is not game week, so we've just come off of a week of where we had some preparation for our first opponent, but realizing that a lot of that preparation is very similar to what our offense does anyway. But we had a week to where we got to focus on teams in the SEC that run different style offense. So we had to generate some of that ourselves with scout teams. But we went through the schedule and kind of went from back to front and did work on different teams in the league that run different style offense. So that when we get to the Arkansas, the LSUs, those type teams that are, traditional pro style two-back run teams, that it's not the first time we've seen it. And so we've been working on that pretty heavily, as well as our first opponent in some split periods, having said that a lot of the stuff that our offense does is the same. There's really not a whole lot of difference in what the assessment of the talent pool and where we're at than the last time we talked. It's still the same names, and we have improved. We've really worked on the physicality of things, and we're starting to buy into that as a philosophy of who we are. We've also worked on tackling and making sure that we get 11 hats on the ball, but then when we do have one, that we can get people knocked down and get them on the ground, and that's important, obviously, on defense. We've accentuated our work in terms of turnovers, because those kind of things, physical guys who dominate in their opponent, their matchup, control their gap, tackle the football, and create turnovers is obviously key to it, because it's more about us than anybody will play. With that,
Kevin, is there any benefit for you having been with Dabo, with Bennett, just kind of knowing something about you?
well, when you've done it 36 years and you've been around as long as I can stand up here every week and say that. You'll be hitting it about, it won't be too many weeks you won't. I don't guess I'd say it about Arkansas State or Louisiana Monroe, but the rest of them somewhere in there is probably going to be the same questions. Not really. I mean, that was a long time ago. All the players are gone. Not really.
Having a guy like Deshaun Watson, how difficult does that make it in terms of preparation? You have a guy like that can do so many different things.
You knew the answer to that when you asked it.
Yeah, I did.
Or you wouldn't ask it. Obviously, he's a great player. But again, it's about us doing what we do. Being in the gap we're supposed to be in. Covering the man you're supposed to cover. Tackle when you get the opportunity to tackle. Because if you go out there and try to play one guy, then that's not going to be very effective. So you got to do your job. Now, if your number's called and that job's in your gap, or that's your responsibility, then you got to get it done. And he's pretty effective at doing it otherwise.
Kevin, how long will it take for a guy like Marshall Taylor just to kind of get up to speed and be able to help you?
Don't know that. I really don't. It's different for each guy. He's older. I've seen it when I was in the NFL, where you'd get a free agent to come in and they'd have to play on Sunday, and it looked like they'd been through with the team for the whole training camp. And then you'd get other guys who had played a long time, and you'd get them in, and they didn't look that way. So it's really individual.
The fact that he's older, though, experience, at least somewhere else, is going to probably help his case, right?
Could.
Just your overall reaction, Kevin, to having him back and probably be able to, I'm guessing, able to be in full pads by Sunday, possibly.
Right.
Best case.
Well, in this day and age, obviously, the more players that you can get that have played the game, that have experience, particularly with, you may not have been saying the same thing to you if Dean had not got hurt, but that changes things. I mean, we need numbers back there.
Kevin, a guy like Paul James, a little banged up in the spring. What have you seen out of him now that he's kind of rolling?
Well, he's got better every scrimmage, and he's fun to coach. And he has got a skill set that can make him really good. So when he gets it figured out, and he has progressively gotten better each day. He studies it, he works at it. He's not a high rep guy. He's a smart football player. And so that's helped him. It's helped his transition. But there's still some things that happen, and it's the first time he's seen it because of what we're asking him to do.
Is he a guy that gives you some versatility because he's got size, but he has that edge?
Yeah, he's a guy that's strong and powerful enough to play, a 6 technique or heavy on a tight end, or he can be an open side guy and even drop him in space some.
You mentioned Jamel Dean. What's the competition looking like there? After you mentioned the loss of Jamel Dean, what's the competition sort of looking like at the cornerback position?
It hadn't changed a whole lot. I mean, we've got 2 out, and so we got Broussard's a young guy, so primarily it's been Dean, and it's been 31 and 6. They've carried the load, and we're trying to get those other guys to come along. Now, obviously, Halsey can go out there and help us if we need be. 14, Stephen Roberts can go out there and help us if we need be. So there's some cross training going on, but it's not, there's nobody yet that would say, okay, anybody's job's in jeopardy.
Is Hosey working safety?
He's working safety. He's working star. He's working corner. Fortunately, he's old, experienced, and very wise. That's easy for him.
Last time Clemson came to Auburn, it was obviously the championship season here for Auburn, but it was the only time that Auburn was in overtime that year. Do you have any memories of that game? I know there was some.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
But
That's why I'm asking.
that's so long ago. You got to remember, we're dealing with 18 to 22-year-old kids or young men. Trust me, they don't remember that game.
No, I'm just writing a story about that game, and I'm just trying to get your perspective of it.
Yeah, well, that would be a different interview.
Coach, who's your starting safeties right now?
You take me where you want a story, it'd take a long time to talk about it. All right, and that to me is really not a story, but that's me. I'd rather talk about our team and what we got going on here in this environment.
Your starting safeties right now?
Pardon me. Probably Stephen, Halsey, Trey, Ruffin. Depends on what personnel grouping we're in. If we're in regular, that's one thing. If we're in dime, then somebody's moving. If we're in nickel, somebody else is moving. So what's the first play? It's really hard. Any one of those guys could be out there. They really could be.
Coach, can you talk about Marlon character, how he's doing, and Daniel Thomas too?
2 young guys that are really smart guys. They're good rep guys. In terms of when you show them something, they've got it. You don't have to just keep on keeping on with them. They're physical. They're good tacklers. So far, they've kind of shown, signs that none of the things we've asked them to do are too big for them.
It's kind of a stupid question, but 8 Davis is on the roster for on your side of the ball. How do you sort of communicate to each of them differently?
31, 57. Yeah.
Do you know which one is which?
Yeah, I do. I know which one's which. Come on, I'm not that old.
How's Dontavius Russell coming along?
He's a player. He knows how to go out and maximize his talents. He's very mature. He affects other people around him positively, both with his play, with his technique, with his leadership. He affects the game and really doesn't say a whole lot.
Kevin, what does Jeff Holland do that you think can help you immediately?
He likes to rush the passer. And he's got a skill set that allows him to do that. He's got quickness, explosion. He's got good use of his hands. He runs relatively, good for a guy in that position. And he likes to play. He enjoys playing. He has fun out there at practice.